Hi, my awesome pen friends. It's Jess from my magical planner, and I thought before we got into new inks for June, we would do a kind of a review of May inks, and I would go over the writing samples that I did with each one, how I felt about the pen ink combo, if I have any comments on the ink itself. I don't have a ton of fountain pens. This is pretty much, I have a couple of other ones besides this that are Gen House, but really this is my collection and these are the pens that I inked up this month. So we'll go over them. I'll show you the ink swatches that I did originally of each ink. We'll go over the writing samples and I will timestamp each individual ink pen combo for you guys down below. So if you want to skip to a specific ink pen combo, you can. All right, let's start off. I think I'm going to use, this is my kind of template that I use at the beginning of the month because I like to refer back to this. I can't always remember what ink I inked up in what pen, so I often refer back to this. It also helps me in coordinating if I have stickers, figuring out whether or not the ink is going to go with that particular sticker pack or if the colors just don't jive. So that's kind of an explanation of this. So we will start off with the Esterbrook JR. I got this last month in a mystery dip that was gifted to me by Gold Spot Pens. If you missed that, I will link it up above. But Witch by Starlight is a Colorverse ink that was Goulet exclusive that I was really excited about trying out. So here is the Colorverse Witch by Starlight ink sample that I did with the swatching when I first got it. It's a really nice dark blue with some beautiful shimmer that's kind of a pinkish tone shimmer to it. It flowed really well when I worked with it with the dip pen, and I loved the colors, so I couldn't wait to put it in a pen, which is part of the reason I decided to go ahead and ink it up this month. Now, for writing samples, what I have been doing, and I did have to start a new notebook, is I do use these notebooks come in a 2-pack, so you get like a like peachy tone one as well as a blue. I use the peachy toned one for my ink swatching and the blue ones for my writing samples. And I've been transcribing Winnie the Pooh. And that way I get 2 pages of writing for each color and ink combo. So I did do a little oops and miss a page here. But this is the Colorverse Witch by Starlight. And it wrote really well. It just flowed amazing in that pen. You do get shimmer. It's not like an overwhelming shimmer, which I kind of like. It's the type of shimmer that as you're glancing at it will kind of catch your eye and bring your eye back to it, but it's not so overwhelming that all you see is shimmer, if that makes sense. It's a darker color, so it shows up really well on the paper. And so this is page 1, and I can't believe I missed those pages, but anyhow, and this is page 2. So it was a fun ink pen combo. It is a medium nib. I don't know how it would perform in a smaller nib. I suspect it would probably be okay, honestly. With probably a fine nib. I don't know about an extra fine, but a fine nib you would probably be okay depending on the ink flow of the pen. It would need a wetter writer like a Benu or an Esterbrook. Those are my wettest writing pens currently. So this one, I think I would, this is an ink that has made it on my I would like a bottle of it. It is just really pretty, really fun to write with, and an amazing combination, especially for this Esterbrook pen. So that is ink number 1. Next we have my other Esterbrook, which is the Esterbrook Estie in Boo? I don't know how you pronounce it. It's spelled a little bit different, but it's the blue one. And I inked this up with Ferris Press's Storied Blue, which is an ink I had heard a ton about. I love the color. I think the color is amazing. Now let me find this one for you guys really quick. Here is the ink swatch for Storied Blue. So it does have a lot of variation and kind of the writing. Like you get a lot of shading, it looks like, with this one. At least from the sample is what I took away from it. I loved the way it wrote. It's a dark enough color that it's not going to fade into existence. But it's also not like super dark like you saw with the Witch by Starlight. So it's a more muted blue and almost a denim-y type blue to me. So I really, really enjoy muted colors that aren't light, if that makes sense. Like the grayer toned colors. So this one for our writing sample. Here's our writing sample. So it is lighter, obviously, than the last one, but it wrote really well. It's a good fit, I think, for this pen. Is it my favorite for this pen? No, because I think I like the color a lot, but it almost felt a little scratchy is not the right word. So I think it was a little bit drier than some of the other inks. And I'm finding that with the Ferris Press inks. I like some of their colors. I don't always like writing with their inks. But it is a very beautiful ink color-wise. And the variation in here is really nice. Pay no mind to my mess ups. It does happen. I try very hard, but you know, my dyslexia wins sometimes. So it's a really fun ink to write with. This is a fine nib, and I think it was a very good fit for that. I think this would also likely be a good fit for an extra fine or a fine. You don't have the shimmer quality, so you don't have to worry about being able to have something wide enough to deal with that. So Storied Blue is something I enjoyed writing with. I am on the fence if it's something I would want a bottle of. I think that's where I am with that. Next, we go into my Benu pens, which I adore. First, we have the Benu French Poetry, which is a gorgeous pen. I absolutely love the colors on this because it's that deep purple with black, and you have this blue shimmer. And it's such a pretty pen. And this is in a medium nib. So I decided to try out an ink that has a ton of shimmer. And I do mean a ton. So this is a Journalizer ink called Evil Queen. So it sheens, it shimmers, it's actually really fun to write with, to be honest. It flowed actually really well. I found this with the Vinta and the Journalizer inks I've tried so far that are really, really glittery, that I'm worried about them clogging up my pens because of the amount of shimmer in them. But honestly, it hasn't been an issue. The flow has been so nice that it's surprised me. And I don't know if that's because they put more liquid in them or what the deal is, but this has been one of my favorite inks to write with this month because it is just fun, especially in this pen. I don't know if it would have the same fun qualities in a different pen, but the Benu medium seems to be a really good combination for this. The writing sample on this one is here. So you can really see all of the shimmeriness that you get with it. And it just writes really well. It's very wet. The one critique I do have with this is sometimes when you're writing with it, it almost pools on the paper and has this kind of weird it just looks like it's not going to completely fill in, that it's almost resistant to the paper because of how much shimmer it has in it at times, but it ends up being fine. It does take a little bit longer to dry, but I'm actually on the fence if I want to buy this one as a entire bottle because I liked it so much. I might. So it is a possibility that we will end up with a bottle of this. But super pretty pen and ink combo, flowed really well, never had any clogging issues. Didn't really have any smearing issues with it, which I've had with some of my favorite sheening inks, because I think it is mostly just how much shimmer it has in it, and that's where you're getting that color change from. So that is ink number 3. Number 4 was also in a Benu. Now this one was not a good combo. This was Troublemaker's Butterfly Dream. Here is Butterfly Dreams. It is an amazingly beautiful ink. It has this really, really pretty purple shimmer with this deep green tone. It is probably, out of all the combinations that I've seen of the green purple, my favorite because of the tones it uses. And it has some nice variation as far as color. Let me show you the writing sample here. So here's your writing sample, and you do get some of that variation in here as far as the coloring goes. So you get those purple hints. Occasionally you'll get a whole word that's almost purple. Now, while I loved this ink and I absolutely adore my Benu Briolette, which is in a fine nib, this was not a good combo. The reason for that is it got clogged in here. I think the tip is too fine. It is where the other one I think is a 6. This might be a 5 as far as the nib size it is. So it's smaller. It's a fine instead of a medium. I think in a medium nib, this would be a great combo, but as far as a fine, it didn't work as well. I had to, in several cases, kind of do things to loosen up the shimmer in there. I think it was just too big for this pen. I have a whole bottle of this. I do love this ink. It just wasn't a good fit for this particular pen. Next, we have the Monteverde Ritma. This was a pen that is a little out of my wheelhouse. I got it in a mystery box. I do love it. It writes really well. Someone last month, because I couldn't figure out what size nib it was, told me that the nib size is on the side, which in fact it is. So it is a medium nib, which I know now, which I love. And I had inked this one up with Ferris Wheel Press Majestic Maple Syrup, which is a color I thought I would love. I really did. I thought I would enjoy this a ton. When I first saw it come out, I was so excited. I actually didn't originally get it when it first came out because it sold out too fast and I had to wait a couple of months to get it. But let's look at the swatch on it. So here's our swatch, and you can tell from this that it's pretty light. I did really like the shimmer qualities though, so I was like, oh, it's gonna be fine. I think putting it in a medium nib was the right thing to do, but I don't really see a ton of that shimmer here, right? So let's see how it's performed as a writing sample. It was okay. It's very light. I'm discovering I don't like super light inks, at least for writing. I think they might be a good fit for, and you can really see it here, how light it got in spots. It's almost hard to read in areas because of how light it is. I didn't really get much shimmer through. And that surprised me with This is a pretty wet writer. It's a medium nib. I feel like that should be big enough for this, but it really doesn't seem to be. So I think this is an ink that I enjoyed trying, but is not going to be a keeper for me. So that is the Ferris Wheel Press Majestic Maple Syrup in my Ritma, which I am enjoying the Ritma, surprisingly. It's a heavier pen and it writes really well. It's a very thick line. And sometimes that bothers me. But other than that, if you like a medium nib, I would say this is a very nice pen. Next, we have my Pilot Vanishing Point, which is a pen I didn't think I would love, honestly, when I first got this pen, but I adore it. Every month, it tends to be one of my favorite pens to write with. It seems to be, well, I love all of these pens, but this one always seems to float to the top along with the Benu Briolette and the Esterbrooks. Obviously, my other Benu is floating up there too, but there's just something about the way that you have to grip this. I think because of the clip, I can't rotate it. And so I get a better flow and a smoother writing experience, which has surprised me. Anyhow, into the ink. So I had put a scented ink in here this month called Attramentis, called Blackberry by Attramentis. And this was a color that I'd gotten a couple months ago, I think around Valentine's Day. And I really thought it was a beautiful color. Here's the swatch for Blackberry. It's just a really nice dusky purple, and like I said, I really like those dusky colors. It's dark, but not like black dark. So I thought it was a really fun color. And I don't have any other scented inks because scents tend to bother me. However, berry or fruit scents don't tend to bother me. It's mostly flowers. So this one, I actually really like the scent of. It doesn't last long, so it's not like a permeating scent. And it, opposed to the other scented inks that I've seen, it writes really well. So our writing sample for this one, I think it's the first one in our new book, is here. It did write darker, I think, than I had anticipated. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit more this color, and it ended up being more around here. But it flows really nicely. It writes really well. It's smooth. It was a great pen ink combo. It almost leans a little bit brownish, but it was a fun write and a fun combination. This is another one that I'm a little on the fence if I would want a whole bottle of it, but I might, because it is a really nice dark color that I could see myself using on a regular basis. So there is that one. Okay, next we have my Twsbis. The first of which is probably my favorite Twsbi, which is the 580. I've discovered I like the 580 better than the Eco. It is just a nice pen. This is the Prussian Blue, so it's just an upgrade in materials, really. So this is in an extra fine nib, and I decided, in my infinite wisdom, to ink it up with Ferris Wheel Press's Knitted Nettle, which is a shimmering ink, and shimmers and extra fine don't tend to go together the best. I've had good luck in the past. This is the first time in this pen that it didn't work really well. I mean, it worked okay. I had some clogging issues, but it wasn't horrendous to the point where I couldn't write with it. Here's the sample of Nettle. So it's a really nice ink. It's a really nice green, which I wanted greens for May. And it has a little bit of red sheening and some glittery elements that are kind of like a goldish color. So it's a really pretty ink. However, it just was too much for this Twsbi. My writing sample on this one. Okay, here's the writing sample for this one. It had clogged up, so I had trouble getting my square at the top here. And you see some of the variation in here. It's not a ton. You have a thinner line, obviously. The biggest problem is that every so often I would have to do stuff on the side. Like I would say every about half page to kind of loosen up that sparkle and keep it going. And that just made it so I didn't grab this pen this month. As much as like I love this pen. It works great, especially in my Hobonichi cousin. The size fits really well, but I just was not grabbing it because it wasn't writing very smooth. I did enjoy this ink, not an ink I think I would purchase in a bottle form. Loved the sample though. I do want to try it in a different pen at some point, but not this month. So that was my thoughts on the Twsbi 580 with the Ferris wheel press knitted Nettle. Next we have the Vinta, however you say this word here, which is essentially like money, I think was the translation, because this is the Filipino name. I will get it a little closer for you. And I will put it on the screen for you guys. This is a beautiful ink. However, it is like shimmer-tastic, kind of like that Evil Queen ink from earlier, but it is in a medium nib, and this is a Twsbi Eco. So let me show you the sample of this one and just how much shimmer is in this, because it almost like you look at the pen in here and you think, oh, that's like a gold ink. It's not. It's actually a green, and all that gold is shimmer. So here is the sample that I did. And I was almost a little afraid of putting this in a pen, but because I had used the other one, the Maiden one from this company, I knew how well it flowed, or at least this one flowed. And so I decided to chance it in my Eco and see how it would write. And I was pleasantly surprised. I've reached for this one more often than I thought I would. I thought I would have the 580 all the time. But here's how this one wrote. Now, I won't say it was perfect. I did have some minor flow issues. Nothing major. Part of that, I think, is the pen, though. To be honest, these were newer pens that I got off of Amazon, and I think I'm learning my lesson that Amazon pens just are not as good as the ones that you get from an actual pen store, because I think they do more quality checks in a pen store. Either that or I just have really bad luck, which is also possible. But you can really see how that glitter comes through in this writing. I've used it multiple times. It was a good fit for a lot of things, a lot of kits and that kind of thing. And it just wrote really well. Do I love a medium nib? Nope. But in certain instances, it can be really fun. So that is the writing sample for that one. This is another one that I am a little bit on the verge of, do I actually want more of this ink? Because I really do love this color, and I'm going to put it on my I want to think about it list. It's not like a for sure thing, because I have other inks that kind of fall into this category, but are not as over the top as this ink is. So that is my thoughts on the Vinta how do you say that word? It is a really fun ink and I would recommend it, but not for anything below a medium nib, I think. And the last ink I have inked up here is actually an ink I have a bottle of. In retrospect, maybe I shouldn't. I did not put a ton in here because I knew this was going to be an issue. This pen is also not writing amazing. Like I said, this is another one. I got the 2 of these recently off of Amazon, and I have not been thrilled with either of them as much as I have my other pens. So I did not do a writing sample of this ink, which is Wearinguel's Wendy. It is a very beautiful ink, but it is insanely light. And the flow from this pen has been a challenge. So what I did do is I did a little writing sample here on one of my daily pages that I wasn't using, and you can really see just how light that is. This is a broad nib pen, so I thought it would be okay, and you can see it, you can read it. It is not the easiest to read. It has a ton of shimmer. It is a pretty ink. I don't know that it is an ink I'm going to use often as far as writing goes. It is an ink I could see myself doing more decorative, maybe painting type elements with in my cousin. So that is my thought on the Wearinguel Wendy ink in a broad nib, which I thought was going to be big enough. Also, do not enjoy writing with a broad nib. I think it's too much for me. So those are all my inks for May. I hope this helps you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and let me know down below so I know if this is a type of video that I should continue to make. I'm still trying to figure out what kind of content people enjoy when it comes to fountain pens. I know what I enjoy watching, but everybody is different. And if this is a worthwhile video for you guys, I would totally be interested in doing it. So just let me know down below. And I hope you guys are having a good week. And I'll see you real soon.